Hey, what is up? Welcome to another edition of the Bayside Students Podcast. I'm Jared Furs.
Boom, boom, boom. Psh, I am Karston.
We do. We probably have intro music. We just can't hear it right now.
That's the intro music.
Yeah.
I'm Karston Williams. What is up, squad? And we have
Back again.
Jake Barkut.
We had a whole podcast explaining how to say my name. Did you not listen to that episode?
It was
Jake
way too
Bart
long
Simpson,
ago.
as my friend Jarvis Franklin refers to him.
That's right.
Way too long ago. Can't remember how it's actually said.
That's
so.
all right.
Bart Kosk.
We're going with the Madonna of youth ministry, not because he's good, but because you can only say his first name. Not because he's good, only because
I like how
it's just the first name.
when you have like one of the whitest names in America, you're like, I'm claiming Jake. When
I am
you
Jake.
Google Jake,
It's just this.
Well,
It's Jake
the
Barkowski.
crazy thing is his first name is spelled like JAVWKHOB.
It is a weird one.
It's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
weird.
yeah.
It's Jacob.
But now you're confusing
Jake.
people.
wait, it's like Jake, like Jack.
No. So it's Jacob, but Jacob has an H.
It's really weird.
I don't know
Jacob
why.
doesn't
Crazy.
have an H. Wait,
No,
how does Jacob?
you're right. Okay, you are so right. Jacob doesn't have an H, but my name Jacob has an H.
Jacob Bart Kotsky
And you wonder why.
Is the
'Cause
weirdest
my mom's
thing.
creative.
Your name is made up.
It's made up. It's very
It's
specific.
not a real name.
That's nuts, bro.
All
This is 2 times in a row
is-
where Jake's name has sent us on a loop.
It's crazy.
Down
Well,
a rabbit hole.
But hey, last time, I don't know if you haven't listened to the last one we talked about preaching, structure, that kind of idea. And so we brought Jake back again. And the idea of talking about like a sermon calendar and structuring out. So if you don't know this, here at Bayside Church, we actually, as a students team, we really engage every campus to give different roles, responsibilities. And one of Jake's roles here is kind of curriculum in general. And since Jake, you've taken it over, it's gotten a million times better.
Much more
I
organized.
was here before Jake, and I will not probably outlast Jake because I probably will because you'll probably move up to do bigger and better things.
The rise and fall of Jake Barkowski is
The rise,
Yeah,
it's
make
all
it
rise
into a
right now,
podcast.
man.
It's all rise. It's all rise.
No
Yeah.
plummet like Jared, but it's all right. But you've taken it to a whole nother level, dude, and it's been incredible to see how our structure and sermon and curriculums. And just to throw this out there too, we give away all of this stuff. So if you're ever like in a pinch and you're like, man, I can't afford DYM, just shoot us an email, and we got some sermon curriculums, things that we've done in the past that we just keep in a folder, and we would love to give out and resource you guys
For free.
or gals if you're listening for free. Yeah, no dime. Yeah, we want to help you guys out. And because I said this last time and I'm going to say it again, you are one of the most big C church-minded pastors I know, and I love that about you. I don't think there's a day go by that you're probably not texting or reaching out to a fellow youth pastor. And so everyone give it up for Jake Barkowski, the
Bam.
legend.
Glad to be here. Glad to hang out.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, to be back.
Yes.
If you could wear one color for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Black.
Classy.
Michael Metcalf status.
Yeah. Dude, Michael Metcalf like blew my mind when he's like, I just wear black all the time.
Yeah, I had a buddy like that.
Permission.
His name was Kevin Madsen, and he only wore black shirts, black pants. He's a real like Bill Gates intellectual type dude, cool guy. And what I thought was crazy is like his closet looked like Doug from the like you know, the TV show,
yes.
where it was just like it was like
Boom.
he had
The
this
same
brand of
outfit
shirt,
15 times.
this brand of pants. Like I understand
for it.
that. But I'm just like the underwear guy, right? If you just give me pair of thieves underwear long, that's me. I don't. But t-shirts and stuff, I'm just like I really just don't care.
You got all
Like,
Bayside tees.
You would
All
wear
Bayside
long
tees.
johns. That's the thing.
I love 'em. I
Jared
love
wear
it.
long johns.
I can
It's
see
weird.
that. I can see
I'm
that.
a big long john guy. I grew up in Santa Rosa, and it's not too cold during the winter, but
Cold
always
enough
wore
to
long
wear
johns.
long.
enough,
I like
yeah.
to be warm. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I get
We
you.
go
But-
different.
Let's get down to it. Sermon structure. Okay. So, Jake, looking at this and sermon structure just in general, why do you think it's important to have a calendar when it comes to calendar out our sermons and things like that?
Man, twofold. There's probably a reason why it's important, and we can get into that. I know for me, it just makes me feel comfortable knowing where we're going. There's so much
Absolutely.
stress in going, what am I teaching next week? What's going to
Yeah.
happen? So if I can know that ahead of time and know, hey, I've got some idea.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh gosh, it's Tuesday. What are we
Yeah,
doing?
what are we teaching on?
I've been there.
Yeah. And
I've been there. I'm like,
Yeah.
what do we do next? And that's the worst.
we've all been that intern who's like at the church that got put in charge of middle school ministry.
Yeah.
And you're like, gosh, I got to write a talk in 2.5 hours. what am I talking on?
John 3:16.
John
It's so good.
3:16,
Yeah.
yeah,
Have you heard this one?
Yeah.
I've actually never spoke on John 3:16.
No way. It was literally a part of our curriculum like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but that was about.
He's like,
For God
That
so
was-
loved the world.
was-
God doesn't
that was
just
the
love the
one-
world generally, but he loves you individually. Come on,
Right.
dude.
But we had
Right,
talked
right.
about, and there's no problem talking about God's love.
Yeah.
But that had been a topic when I didn't use curriculum multiple times in like prior weeks right before we started that section.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I want to fit in the Lost Books series, so
I'm gonna spin it a little different.
I combined that one with whatever the last one was. I can't remember what
The
the
Jesus
last
you
one
never
was.
knew.
Yeah. I combined the last two together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is also
Like
Carston's just like, hey, I don't want to.
Jake's offended because I had a little bit of a problem, but not really with the curriculum, and he wrote that one. He was like, why won't you tell me what's wrong with it? And I
It's like the
couldn't really
graphics
pinpoint it.
when everyone's
it was
roasting
still really
graphics,
good.
and you're like, who made this one? Trash.
Yeah.
I did. Who made this one? Trash. I did.
Well, you know, it's funny. Yeah. I'm not even gonna go there. That's
you're
fine.
like,
That's
you're like
fine.
the Jesus never knew graphic, Jared. Yeah, how'd you like that one? Because I
Trash.
made it
Spelled
and
wrong.
you remade it.
Yeah.
and then you spelled it wrong. But structuring curriculum,
Yeah.
where we're going, why is
No.
it important?
So awesome. So can I show him something?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so we're gonna show it on the TV. So we did this with our students team on a retreat, looking at the next year. So you're gonna see
Yeah.
some of our notes, unfinished product. But kind of here's the way my brain works. It's all black. Oh, there we go. That's not the way my brain works. It works like this. I have an iPad. There it is. My email and stuff. But cool. So we do it a little bit like this. I like to lay out the whole year, see everything that we're doing. So we get a perspective on how many weeks there is to teach. Often you think, oh, I got to teach 52 weeks. You don't actually.
No.
Not in high school
Yeah.
ministry at least. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Middle
yeah,
school, if you're teaching 52 weeks a year in student ministries, you're teaching way too much.
It's crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think like small group takeovers, things like that. Like I know I've talked to Doug and Josh down at Mariners, how they structure their stuff, because they do everything like it, because I do some authorship for DYM, and everything they want is a 3-week curriculum.
Yep.
Because it's most churches, there's an event, there's something big, there's something. So it's either like 3 Wednesdays a month you're teaching this. I know for us here and for me and for middle school and for your guys' campuses too, middle school is meeting on the weekends and on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not preaching Christmas. I'm not preaching Easter.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, so there's other things. Summer camp weekend, if your church makes you preach that weekend, find a new church. You know what I mean? Like, but like you shouldn't be preaching 52 weekends a year.
Totally. And what's cool about looking and seeing the full calendar is you start to see where those chunks are at. You
Yeah.
start to see where things break up. Like, I mean, just an easy example right here in the middle of February around here, we call it ski week. They have a whole week off of school.
Absolutely.
Everyone except for the guys over here in Auburn, they get like
Let's
a
go.
day.
Yes, we
Too
get
bad.
literally
But
one
you
day.
probably
And
get
you
out
guys
of
are
school
going,
early. Who
I think
knows?
that's just because they hunt year round. You know what I
It's
mean?
true.
So ski week is technically the start of hunting season. But when you live in Auburn, it's like, well, we catch and kill our food year round. So
Yes.
why take a week
Hunters
off?
and gatherers.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all we are.
Wild. So you get to start to see chunks. You get to start to see rhythms. So I love to look at the full year like this. I'm sure you guys have looked at a calendar before. It's not nothing new. But so we look at the full year, the calendar perspective. And then one of the things that we did to start our conversation, well, twofold. Let's go here. Is we zoomed in on this whole idea that like throughout the year, throughout the time in student ministry, we've got 7 key things that we want our students to be learning.
Yeah.
And some people might feel like they look really recognizable. These come from Kurt Harlow. Kurt Harlow is one of our pastors here at Bayside. Came up with these completely OG original thoughts.
Yeah,
off the top of
Andy
his head.
Stanley had no thought in these.
Yes.
He was like, "Hey, when I'm doing ministry, these are the 7 things students should
Divine
learn about."
inspiration.
Literally,
God.
have Andy Stanley
called-
had no idea
Andy
what
called
this.
up Kurt. He's like, Kurt, what are
Yes.
you teaching? So, anyways,
Absolutely.
7 ideas. Maybe they're familiar, but we threw them out there. Authentic faith, spiritual disciplines, all these, and we said, hey,
Well, here, let's go through them. Let's go through them.
Oh, okay,
Authentic
okay.
faith, right?
Yeah.
Authentic faith, more spiritual discipline, moral boundaries, meaningful friendships, wise choices, ultimate authority, and others first. Just in case you're like, we got to paint an elephant. If you're not watching this, go to YouTube and watch it.
totally
You
forgot.
just listen to it.
so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't see anything I'm referring
Come
to.
on.
Absolutely. But I think
Yes.
these are important because also understanding like what should you be talking about in a school year, right?
Yeah.
And so these are key when it comes to that, like having different topics and ideas. Not like you could teach through James or Daniel, but like where does that fit in
Yeah.
to these 7 things that every student should be learning about every year?
And as you're teaching through a book, you're doing that very exegetical stuff.
Absolute-
like, are you
absolutely.
also going, hey, am I helping a student understand some of these concepts? That's super
Yeah.
cool. And part of that perspective is super helpful because otherwise you wind up just going back to the same things. Like, let's just talk
Absolutely.
about sex and dating again.
Correct.
Because students will lean in, they'll listen.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
You know, or if you ask them, what do you want to hear? They always go to the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
Relationships.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah. It's great. Let's go there. But like, hey, let's make sure it's a well-rounded teaching curriculum and speak to all of that. So we've got the 7 ideas, and we said, okay, as we look back over the last year, last 2 years, like, what do our series look like? So I slid it over and I was like, hey guys, here's what we did this year that we're kind of wrapping up. Here's our 6 the graphics.
It's the old. I changed the. I changed
Oh,
the. I changed.
I didn't even notice that. I heard you say it. It says, okay, it says the Jesus you never knew.
You spelled it wrong.
Without a K.
Yeah,
He-
I did go back and
He
correct
was
it.
never a new Jesus. We don't believe in a new Jesus around here. We
Yeah,
get the same
heresy.
OG one. Yeah,
Tough,
exactly.
tough.
That's funny. Okay, so did not know that. We looked at. I just threw the graphics up there to remind us. Hey, we did a series called "Pass the Ox," speaking of cultural issues. We did a series called "Better," going to study through the Book of Hebrews, identity, the real you. We always do Love Month in February, talking sex,
Yeah.
dating, relationships, friendships. We're in a series. We all kind of just wrapped up the Jesus you never knew. Some
Yeah.
myths that students often, misbelieve about Jesus, and then we're in the Lost Book series, Spirit of the
Yeah.
Disciplines and stuff. So super good to get like a hey, this is what our year has looked like.
Yeah.
And then we even went back. I won't take you through the year before that. And we just said, hey, this is what we have done before. What do we want to do now as we look at this new year, this next year that's
Absolutely.
coming up? How do we continue to hit on some of the same core themes and teaching
Yeah.
ideas, but doing that in a fresh way with a fresh perspective, and then figuring out where it lines up and where those things sit best in our year?
Perfect. And I think that lines us up with our next question, which is how do you structure when it comes to your sermon calendar? So like, for example, I see right now during Love Month or February, you have Love Month written there. You know what I mean? And then October, you said eternity. Like when you look at your calendar, where do you think to place certain topics and things and maybe why?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So if you are watching and you see video, these are chicken scratch notes because this is a live document that we were editing days ago. But part of what we try and think about is like in August, we're looking at this idea that's our soft launch into the fall. School's back in session. You're still getting a lot of your core kids, and we said, okay, how do we cast vision? So
Yeah.
around here, Bayside students, we've got 3 core values that every student's known, valued, and connected. We wind up hitting that every year at the beginning of the year. Students, if you're around, this is what we want you to feel, and now you're a part of carrying that mission out. Like, so let's cast vision and say, this is what it's going to look like if a student's involved.
Absolutely.
We start there, and then as the school year starts to roll in, and they have the opportunities to invite their friends and set that rhythm and tone, we go, what is a great sermon topic, a series that is going to reach a kid that doesn't want to come to church?
Absolutely.
That's not interested.
Invitational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so last year we did Pass the Ox during that first month, and we're just like, hey, let's look at Pass the Ox being like, let's look at some songs that everyone's listening to, let's look at what their meaning is, and how does God want to speak to that. So super fun going from there, and then we just go, hey, at the core, we are a place that is studying God's word, and that's what we're doing through this vision casting series, through Pass the Ox, whatever it is. But then we have a little bit of opportunity to go a little bit deeper as we lead into the fall season. And then as we come into that new year, it just tends to be our rhythm. Like January, we're trying to rope students back in. We're trying to rope them in with that new semester, new rhythms. It's been an identity series. Like I think the last 2 years, I think because we're just trying to touch on what is everybody thinking about right now.
Absolutely.
It's like new year, new me.
Correct.
And so we just want to go, hey, if you're already thinking that, how do we speak to that?
Yeah.
Same thing. February is Love Month because of Valentine's Day, I guess.
Absolutely.
You're like, there's one day we
Love
all
is
sell
in the
chocolate.
air.
You're eating it. Love's in the air. So we'll speak to it. We do that in February, and then as spring rolls around out of there, we do mission trips during our spring break for our middle school and our high school students. Love the opportunity. You guys go. Our middle school outreach at Santa Rosa, working with people, and we go, how do we prepare the hearts of our students for what we're about to do?
Absolutely.
And then as we come out of those spring mission trips, man, students come back, they're on fire. They've had that spiritual high, that mountaintop moment. We're going, how do you stay with this? And we're into the disciplines, and it doesn't always wind up like that, but that is a rhythm that we've followed in the last 2 years.
Absolutely. And I think understanding whether you're new or old, having rhythms in your sermon series and looking at a calendar. If you don't have a calendar, get a calendar. Like we have a calendar in our office. I have always had calendars in my office. I like having like an 18-month calendar. So if you have the wall space, 18-month or iPad or just a few months, so you can always be looking ahead what's coming next, the rhythms, the ebbs and flows of youth ministry. Right now we're in a series called The Lost Book, and it's focusing on spiritual disciplines. Like we just talked about fasting, we've talked about meditating, we've talked about these different ideas. And what's so gold about it is because we came out of this mission trip, middle school outreach for middle school, and students were on fire for God. Like they haven't been in a long time. And so jumping into a sermon series about the spiritual disciplines and sustaining that fire has been so key to our ministry.
And what's so, you're just speaking to the need.
Yeah,
You're going,
absolutely.
how do I speak to the need? We have students who their perspective shifted and was changed
Yeah.
based on what they were exposed to on this mission trip.
Yeah.
And now their heart is longing for this. So that's what
Yeah.
we do as pastors is we lean into how do I shepherd, how do I care for, how do I serve them?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what the key is becoming organized is helping shepherd your students.
Yep.
It's not about always being present. It's not about always, like we're always thinking of like the best way to shepherd is to be and do and this. A lot of times it's the opposite of what seems so natural as a youth pastor. Is like, I want to be hands-on. I want to be present. I want to be at their games. I want to be at this. No. Sometimes it's actually us taking some time and getting organized and understanding the best way and me to shepherd them in the future is preparing them right now.
Okay, and what's so wild is it's just about like a lot of what happens in youth ministry is predictable. Like it's
Correct.
predictable. Like I tell students I get adults that love to ask me all the time. They go, "What's different about working with students now than it was 18 years ago when I started, or even longer before that?" And I always push back and I go, "The students are the same. Like they are. It's all the same heart issues. It's just being expressed in different ways."
Yeah.
But I say that because I think student ministry is in a lot of ways really predictable. I can predict if we go on a mission trip, students are going to come back on fire and they're going to want to know how to grow. So like part of having that perspective and that calendar planning is going, I can predict what they're going to need. And now I want to be prepared to meet that need in any way that I can. So like anything that you can do to predict what are they going to need, how do I serve them?
Yeah.
Huge.
Well, and here's what I think is so funny is we're right now during the summer we don't really do like a collective thing. So I'm doing a sermon series called "Sup, Brother" during the summer, and it's
How do
just
we do it? You
it's,
do, like,
yeah,
you
it's
do
just
little
like Check
wings.
Tuesday. You're like yeah.
go.
And because this is like a cultural
night.
phenomenon. Not saying I support it or not, whatever. But here's the truth: is we're going to teach through James,
so
Jesus'
good.
literal brother, and we're just going to exegete James. But it's like I have this sermon series already in the
In the can.
yeah,
it's there.
It's been
Yeah,
done
yeah.
before. I have this.
You've
I'm just
preached
changing
on
the
James
graphic.
before?
Oh, it's surprising. It's almost like it's almost like one of the easiest books to teach on. It's so
love James.
tangible, so
Love it.
applicable, and I'm just changing the graphics. You know what I mean? And
Because
what
they
I
sucked last time.
because
Can I say that?
I mean, if there's one thing that is changing, it may not be students' identity issues and tendencies, but technology is always advancing.
That's right.
Graphics are always getting better, and
I'm just
trends are
roasting.
always.
Keep telling me about your
Trends
new
are changing.
and awesome series, Sup, Brother.
Sup,
that's great.
brother? Yeah. And maybe we could get Sketch on here in the future. I don't know, but
Yeah, good idea.
That'd be a horrible idea. At least I'll apologize for cussing.
But I love that you get to go back and you get to reuse something like that because you can predict what students need. And then, I thought of this because that idea of predictability. I remember I was a high school senior, and we go on our Mexico mission trip. And my youth pastor, he's new to our church, and he had this great idea. Our theme for Mexico was called Amazing Race, and he did the play on words.
Yeah.
It's amazing grace, amazing race. And so we raced down to Mexico, and we did like a scavenger hunt on the way down.
Yeah.
So much fun. I go, and I remember talking to somebody the next year. I go, dude, that idea that he came up with just blew my mind. I don't know if it was ever. And they go, people have done scavenger hunts before. There's nothing new under the sun. And I remember learning that for the first, like, there's nothing new under the sun. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, you don't have to come up with new things.
No.
Like, just take a step back. And you can predict what your students need.
Yeah. And now we were talking about this before, and this may be jumping ahead a little bit, but if you were a new dude, like Karston's a new guy, and one thing I wish I could go back and say, and Jake will ask you this in a second, is hold on to everything.
Yeah.
Like every sermon series, every one-off, every anything. Become organized, get folders. One of my good buddies, his name's Brian Barry, church planner in San Diego now, but he was like a youth min dude for a long time. And I remember I went to youth specialties way back in the day. They don't do them anymore, but they did this. He did a 3-year calendar. Okay. So middle school ministry, it's about 3 years. High school ministry, 4 years. But having a 3-year calendar, you can see what's coming. You can see what's gone. You can see what's gone well. And then he was like, hold on to it. Because then once those kids graduate, once they're in 8th grade in high school, guess what? Bring back the good stuff.
Use it again.
Rewrite the new stuff that you need to improve. And then guess what? You have it. And then I have a dude he was at a church in Washington for 17 years. And I was like, bro, what's going on? And he goes, I don't write a sermon. He's like, I have these 7 sermons that I teach these 7 like things. He's like, I change the graphics here and there, but like I can predict when a student goes through my middle school ministry, what they're going to hear. I'm going to know what they're going to have been taught. And I don't have to worry about it anymore. I can give an intern a sermon that's been structured and outlined. They just need to plug and play some stories and make it their own a little bit. But he's like, but for the most part, I've relieved myself of having to write a new sermon every single week. And sometimes like, I know for me, man, we have Wednesdays, we have weekends, and then we have one-off events. So sometimes if I'm not like on it, I'm writing 3 new sermons a week.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not including extracurricular teaching opportunities.
Yeah. And I think that is a super comforting, like as a young guys getting into the game, we just got to trust the old guys because what you're saying is completely true. I have a question because this has happened a little bit. Like it's a new church plant where I'm at, and it's the culture of the students is so much different. So we were like going through the book of Hebrews as a church or as a student youth group at the time with all the other youth groups at Bayside. And I was like, this is not going to help us. Like diving into the book of Hebrews with some people, like it was just weird. It was crazy. So I was like, we can't do this. So the question is it okay to veer off a schedule even if you've already made a schedule? How do you get back on track? When is a good time to veer off schedules? Is it like a cultural moment, something going on? Like if there's like a shift in culture, what would you guys say to that?
Yeah. And I would say that your role as a pastor is to be responsive to the needs of the people that you're pastoring. So anytime you go, hey, and that's what's so great about, like you were talking about this, you've got notes as you're teaching, but if you're noticing like, hey, this isn't landing well, this isn't connecting, I don't think they're picking up on what I'm putting down, then I'm going to adjust what I'm saying, because the whole goal is not to go, well, I taught through the book of Hebrews and now they know it. The whole goal is to teach for transformation and go, how do I lead them? And so if that's not the right content to speak to your students, to lead them and to speak to where they're at and what they're going through, then I think you always need to feel that freedom to do it. The structure of a sermon calendar and that series is really meant to help you so that you're not in panic mode all the time going, I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And I think and when you structure the sermon too, it just because you give yourself a roadmap doesn't mean you have to take those streets. You know what I mean? So it's like you can say like, hey, we're going to go through. I remember I was pastoring, I was at this church, and we were in this sermon series, and it was church wide, right? Churches like this, and then we had a suicide in our town, and rather than, and this was around 13 reasons why, all that stuff came out. Copycat suicides are popping up everywhere, and so I talked to my campus pastor, and I was like, hey, we're gonna do a series called 13 Reasons Why Not. You know what I mean? Why not to kill yourself? Why God's called you to something else? And so we spent 13 weeks going through the Word of God and what does it call us to when it's like to live a life, you know? And good. So we had to go somewhere different. Yeah. We had to, and then once we finished, guess what I did? Just hop back right into what we had scheduled and planned. Yep. And it was like, I wasn't stressed about it. The tough part is like, we have so many youth pastors out there, and I know because I've been there, where it's like, you've gotten called in, pulled in to do so many things. And because you aren't organized, you're like stressed out because you're like, shoot, I got to plan a sermon and I got 2 hours, you know, or 10 minutes or 15 minutes or like, and here's the thing, man, I can't tell you, like working with students, you're going to give a lot of trust to maybe interns, volunteers. And it's not uncommon to have a volunteer a couple hours before is like, hey, grandma got sick, cat got ran over, fish died. I don't want to, I didn't prepare. And you're like, if you don't have like a good outline prepared, like this, that's on you. Like leadership reflects up. So if you're not leading well, and I think like when you structure that, and Jake, maybe you could talk to this a little bit, like you do a good job of this. When we structure out a sermon, what are we structuring out our 4 weeks? Like if we're going to give someone something, like you're going to give your intern, what are like the pieces you want in that sermon to help them prepare for that sermon?
Yeah, and we talked about that a lot on the last episode that I was here, where we talked
Yeah.
about how to like plan an individual talk. But when you talk about like structuring the full series,
Yeah.
and you spoke to that idea of that 3-week, 4-week series, which is
Yeah.
where a lot of our series land. Oftentimes we go, hey, there's something on my heart. I want to talk to our students about. Hey, I feel like I don't know if they know who Jesus is.
Yeah.
Like they say who. Like I'm just going back to one we just did, the Jesus you never knew. Like there are some things that you guys often get wrong, or I feel like we know this, and so anyways, so we'll come at a topic and we'll really try and hit one idea from 4 different angles.
Yeah.
It's like I've got 4 different things to say, and sometimes there's a guy who's like, I want to tackle all that in 1 week, and like, dude, student's gonna lose all of that.
Yeah.
Like so often your one sermon could actually be 4, and so the whole art of like planning a series is going, how do I continue to develop this idea, this thought, from a biblical angle for students over the course of those 4 weeks?
Absolutely. And I think that's key. It's like, so when I give an intern and it's like, let's say the Jesus we never knew, and I'm giving them a series about, how Jesus, I'm trying to think of like some of the ones we talked about, where like Jesus with the woman at the well, you know what I mean? And here it's like Jesus did more than just meet this woman at the well and then just call her to repentance. You know what I mean? Like he loved her where he was at. He stepped out of cultural boundaries. So when I give someone this sermon series, I'm usually giving it with a main point.
Yeah.
Now, they don't have to say exactly with the main point, but relatively like the passage I'm giving them, the main point I'm giving them, and then the 3 supporting things, maybe small group questions, and then some illustration ideas. So when I'll work through a sermon series, I'll work through, like as I write this, Sup Brother series, I'm actually working through like, here's the 5 main topics I want to talk through, James. I want to talk about the tongue. I want to talk about actions. I want to talk about prayer. You know what I mean? I want to talk about these things. So I know, hey, we're going to cover these ideas, and I'm going to give like every single one, hey, here's a main idea. Here's 3 supporting things from the scripture. I'm going to exegete those scripture, which is taking what the scripture literally says and then bringing my points from it and saying this supports the main idea. That's, and all of our teaching should be Christ-centric. It should always be pointing back to Jesus and the gospel. So all 4 weeks are all doing this, and then I can give them this to where like hopefully that intern, small group leader, even myself, when they step up to bat to preach and they start preparing, hey, I've given them a great foundation to start on. But a lot of times that can be lost if we're just winging it every single week.
Yeah, and I think that's so important too when you talk about structuring that series, knowing where it has been in the weeks before and knowing where it's going.
Yeah.
So because then that gives you the freedom to go, hey, you know what? I don't have to cover everything that happens in James. Like we are just going to talk about taming the tongue right now.
Absolutely.
We're going to get to conflict in a few weeks. We're going to get to conflict in a few chat. Like this is I want to give you freedom to just hammer one idea. And to come at it in a simplistic way, it just goes, hey, like you said, it's hard to remember what did I teach on last week, and you taught that message,
Yeah.
So like your student is not going to remember it if it's overly complicated. So let's simplify things down and make sure that each week hits one idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So Karston, any last questions as we wrap up?
Yeah. What's your favorite color, Jake?
It's a
back
different
to it.
question. No, last time you said what color will I wear?
Yeah.
My favorite color is blue. My favorite color to wear is black. The complete opposite of
Very
what I'm wearing
slimming.
right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
I would say, hey, good question for us to kind of wrap up on is, hey, if they're new, they're starting out, what's one thing, one tangible piece to start doing as a new guy when it comes to structuring your sermons? What do you guys, or your content, what do you guys think?
What's been working for you, Karston?
I'm gonna need you to ask the question again.
You weren't listening to the podcast either.
I was looking at you.
got
You're like
lost in
Jake
his
is
eyes.
just about to drip
I was looking at-
wisdom right
Yeah.
now.
What would you say? I was looking at your hat
Yeah.
again. What would I tell to the new person?
New person, yourself. What are you applying? What are you taking?
That I would honestly stick to the structure.
Mhm.
Like get organized, stick to the structure. It'd probably take. Sometimes for me, it is the 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. grind sesh. Take a couple of hours and just grind out a schedule of what you want it to look like.
Yeah.
Pass it by people you trust to see what
Yeah.
they think. But like get organized.
Yeah.
Like Jared, you were talking about, and set the structure so that you have something, and then you can press and play from there.
Yeah, I love that.
I love it. I would say know where you're going.
Yeah.
Like if you think about driving a car, you're not looking right. You're looking like 500 feet down the road. You're looking
Yeah.
ahead of you and where you're going. So if you know where you're going, then you know what you're inviting students to come back for too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So you know where you're going. You also know where you're inviting students to come back to. I think that's great, man. I would always be like what Jake is saying, be praying forward. Don't just be focused on this month's sermon series. Be focused on the next month's sermon series too. Be praying about that. Be working ahead. you know, and get organized, man. Save your sermons, save the things you're doing, you guys. Honestly, get a folder, get a little hard drive. I mean, terabytes, it's crazy. I have a 2 terabyte hard drive. I bought it for like $20 20 years ago. That's actually not true. I bought it for $200 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But now they're super cheap. And they just hold on to files, man. Like today, I literally like went onto my hard drive today to get something else, and I saw 10 Commandments sermon series. I saw the James series I'm reteaching. I saw the Gospels. You know what I mean? I saw red letters. I saw all these sermon series that I've done where I can just pull and pick and choose old stuff that I've already done, and I can rewrite. I can redo things. But man, it's so gold to get organized. And I know if you're young and you're ambitious and you're all those things, a lot of times, like, youth pastors are not choosing youth ministry for the organizational glamour. You know, that sex appeal is not there for most youth pastors. They're like, man, I'm fun. I'm outgoing. I'm on the stage. Very rare you meet a youth pastor that's like the organizational guru. You know what I mean? But that comes with time. That comes with growth. And so I would say, man, get organized. Sound good?
Rock on.
That's gold.
Rock on.
Great. Thank you so much, Jake.
That's gold. Make
That's
the
gold.
teas. Let's do it. Hey,
Awesome.
man, what would you guys love for us to talk? What did you love about this? Comment below. Also, if you need a sermon series, anything like that, hit us up. Just send in the chat or send in the comments what you guys, you need some help. You need a sermon series. That's another thing, man. If you need help, man, pull and glean from other churches. No one else is doing anything whatsoever. But as we sign off, the Apple TV has gone wild on us. Man, hey, remember, when one of us gets better, we all get better. We love you guys. Have a great day. Peace.
Could be worse.
Could be worse.